What's your name?
My name is Scott Shoup.
And what organization are you with?
I'm with the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Tampa Bay. I'm vice president.
What does it mean to you to be a progressive?
It's a term that kind of concerns me now. I think it's being bandied about after the Bernie Sanders campaign, but I've considered myself progressive for the last 20 years in that I think we, as the Democratic Party and our society as a whole, has come to financialize everything. And what I think progressives represent is this kind of return to a public sphere, where there's a line divided, where not everything's monetized. And so I don't know originally where the progressive term came from. I think if you look back historically, it might even have some bad connotations back in the early part of the 20th century. But in its current usage, it kind of just means looking at forward thinking, I suppose, is what I'm thinking, the way I see it.
Is there a particular issue that you're passionate about, and what do you hope to? What is that something that you really want to get behind to see change in?
Oh boy, there's really just a number of issues, and I'll just enumerate them. I think that the public schools, it's important to keep public schools, and I just don't agree with this idea of, or this movement to corporatize our schools through vouchers. Our media environment now, it saddens me, the mainstream media, and I think it's just kind of captured people. We don't think critically as a society anymore. I think we used to. We don't read as widely and as deeply. Issues, women's rights for their own reproductive health. Again, just this whole notion that there is a public sphere and a private sphere, and everything is monetized. I just kind of want to envision a society. I think it's a better society when people are aware of a public purpose and a society that doesn't have so much corporate intrusion.
What examples, when you were growing up, made you helped you come to the way that you look at life now?
Well, I grew up in a really far right-wing family. My parents were members of the John Birch Society in the 60s, and basically it's evolved to that's who's running things now. If you look at the history of David and Charles Koch and where they come from, the Coors Foundation. So my parents embraced this in the 1960s, so a lot of these talking points I grew up with. And I'll use a personal example. My mother, who spent years when she was younger kind of ranting about Social Security that was confiscating, and when she got to be in her very late ages, she had ran out of all her assets, and she relied totally on Medicaid and Social Security to provide just a modicum of comfort. And again, she spent her younger life sold on this anti-government notion, and here it was these two programs that Congressman Paul Ryan is trying to undermine and profitize and have a more market approach, I suppose. So I know all these talking points at the right. I hear them now, and I've lived through it. I've seen it, and it's frustrating when people I work with will talk about the need that we have to keep you just keep lowering the tax rate on the super wealthy, that somehow that's going to spur job growth. All these things, I've just seen them in my life, and they just it's frustrating because, again, my mother relied on these programs at the end of her life. Another thing I might add, and a lot of people don't know this, in Tampa, I was listening to an interview with Sam Gibbons, a congressman here in Tampa, many years ago, and he brought back a federal earmark, and that's how the University of South Florida got started. And the right typically calls these pork barrel projects disparagingly. And that University of South Florida, think about how large of an employer they are, all the research money, what Vennick's doing downtown. That originally was a government taxpayer earmark that created that. So when the right talks that government can't create jobs, it's just absolutely nonsense. Government can definitely spur job growth, and it should be doing that now. Like we talked earlier out here on Andrew Gillum, Mayor Gillum was talking about 21st century high-speed or transportation, basically. The government has to get involved to do that. So these are all issues why I consider myself a progressive. I think they're pretty common sense, and I think 40 or 50 years ago, this was just in the Democratic Party DNA, and we've just lost it over the last few decades. It seems like since Ronald Reagan has come to office, this whole idea of supply-side economics has just developed into a cancer, and we just can't. Some of my co-workers and even one of my brothers who grew up in a Republican family like me, they just have been infected with this virus, and they just can't step out and look at the world differently. So, hope I answered your question on that.
You did. Just one more for you. Sure. One more question. So, do you see this as a progressive moment or opportunity? And if so, what do you think are both the opportunities and the challenges?
Oh, it's certainly an opportunity for progressives. We can thank Bernie Sanders for that. I definitely got involved with the Hillsborough County Democratic Party as a result of Bernie Sanders, because there's just so much billionaire money flowing into the Republican Party, and there is the Democratic Party. But I mean, it's races like Marco Rubio's, or up in Wisconsin where Russ Feingold got beat. Or in Indiana, I can't think of the senator there, Evan Bayh. The Koch Industries just threw so much money in the last few weeks. And for people that pay attention to this, on the left, we have to organize with people. And Sanders showed through grassroots organizing and small donation that it's possible. But we have to just stay organized. And there is a division in the Democratic Party, certainly, with the people that didn't support Bernie, that maybe felt what he was talking about with free college tuition. I think they thought that meant free college in general. It wasn't. It was just college tuition. Medicare for all. Those are very radical things. And there is some conversations that has to be done within the Democratic Party. And I'm willing to do that. I don't want to shut anybody down. It's all about dialogue, I feel. So this is a really, really special moment, and I'm really excited about it.
Thanks for your time, Scott.
Okay, thank you.